the Apostle Paul, this violent man, this blasphemer, this prosecutor or persecutor, the worst sinner, was shown mercy so that we can see an example of God's loving mercy, so that we may believe in Christ. Another fun fact, the Greek word there for example, when Paul's talking about all of this was brought together to be an example, is hupatukoses. And it means an outline, a blueprint, to be modeled, a pattern to be placed before one and held fast and copied. That's what Paul is being used for. God's grace and mercy, Paul's wicked past, Paul's view of himself, all of that is brought together to be an example for us, to be copied and pasted. And from that, we have two major applications, brothers and sisters. Number one is it's for the non-believers. That example is for the non-believers. This example is for the non-believer who thinks of themselves as so low, so wretched, that God couldn't possibly save them. They think to themselves, they're too far gone, unsavable. They've convinced themselves of that, or maybe the world has convinced them of that. They may hear the gospel, it may swirl around in their heart, but when their head hits the pillow at night, they think to themselves, yeah, Christ came for some, but nobody knows everything I've done. God can't actually forgive me for everything I've committed. Not everything. No, I might as well just keep living my life and enjoy it, because I know where I'm going and there's not a thing that can change that. I deserve what's going to happen to me. Brothers and sisters, isn't that sad? That type of thinking. Paul says to that person, you think you are so wretched that you deserve hell, that you don't deserve to be saved, that you've done much evil. Paul says amen and amen. But you got one thing wrong. Paul says, I am the worst sinner. And if God poured his mercy upon me, then that's an example to be duplicated. You can have that mercy. Because since I'm the worst, there's no way I earned it. I didn't earn that grace. I don't deserve it. He poured it upon me. Paul didn't clean up his act. Paul didn't clean up his act. Someone write this down. God did not wait for the sinner to clean up their act to save them. He reached down and he saved them right where they were. Amen? Right where they were. Jesus came to save the sinner, deliver them from their deserved penalties because of their sin. You can have that mercy. Are you a sinner? Then you qualify. That's the best news I've ever heard. That's the gospel side. Oversimplified. Are you a sinner? Then you qualify. The second thing, the other point, is for believers. By now, we've all caught that Paul is a changed man. Very changed. Does not do the things he once did. But he still says, I am the worst of sinners, not was. This is because Paul knows his own heart, his own sins. And he never tries to elevate himself. This is to be an example to believers. And I'm just going to come right out and say it, dear friends. Some Christians forget where they came from. Some Christians absolutely have forgotten where they came from. You see, Paul didn't say, I was the chief of sinners. I used to be bad. He says, I am the chief of sinners. Paul never forgot how wretched his sins are. Anytime he spoke, he always made sure that he was decreased and God was increased. If we're being honest, we can all use a little of that, maybe a lot of that, but a lot of Christians forget where they came from. They get saved. And I'm not judging. Let's say they're really saved. They're born again believers. But then they live their life. They put on this front as if they're special now. As if they don't have a past. They try to convince the world they're squeaky clean. Nothing wretched about them or their past. They say, I'm good now. No. That is not how we should view ourselves. Not when compared to God's glory. Paul knew his own heart and his wicked past. And when he compares it to God's standard, he has to come to the conclusion he is the chief of sinners.